All right, guys, welcome back to another lockdown edition of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm pleased again, as always. I'm always pleased when we do these pods. But for the first time ever, we're going to introduce a recurring guest.
I've got deja vu right now.
Mr. Ashley Jones, welcome. Introduce yourself again.
Way!
Hello. Thank you boys for having me. It's an honour to be back.
So, Jay, would you like to tell the people why Ash is back?
Ash is back quite simply because we had a dream, well, much less a dream than an idea, much less we than Big. Big had an idea, and, you know, as with all of his ideas, they just happen. So Ashley is our sort of unofficial football correspondent.
It was a long and arduous process to get here.
I mean, the real shocking thing is we actually interviewed no blacks or women. It's not very diverse at all.
No babes and no gender equality here.
No babes, no babes, nothing. Just
no
Ash.
babes or babes, yes.
I'll take it.
Who would have beaten him to it if we were open to babe and babes? That's what I want to know.
That's an interesting question. How many black women do you know?
How many what?
How many black people or women do you know?
I know women.
Oh yeah,
Trust
big
me,
time, baby.
I know women. I grab them by the... Oh, no, I don't. Right, guys, I'm getting off track here, so let's get back to why we're all here today.
Let's get back on track, back on the field. Football, unless you live in Belarus, it's a bit of an interesting topic because, guys, there isn't any.
No.
And can we all just appreciate how sad that is, apart from the Bundesliga, which, as of airing this, will have come back for a round. But a lot of leagues have null and voided themselves. First of all, how do we feel about that?
It's a disgrace.
Yeah, I don't know how you can cancel a league before it's been finished.
Yeah. No, and I think I'm in total agreement. It makes no sense to cancel a league that's midway through. Makes far more sense, and it's sort of, these are my thoughts on the Premier League as well and the English football. Far more sense to cancel the next season that hasn't happened when, you know, nobody's already invested in it, and stagger out the rest of this season.
Yeah.
Than just up and cancel the season halfway through.
100%.
Yeah, I think I would be more in favour of ending it where it is rather than cancelling it as if it didn't happen.
No, fantastic. And that brings us on to English football, which obviously is currently paused.
What are
our thoughts on that? Again, there's talks about it coming back in June, mid-June. Again, I've sort of said it, you know, I think if you want to get the fitness player back up and you want to generate money back in, you can have sort of like mid-season, pre-season tournaments where you have, you know, clubs coming together, generating money, getting fitness, and then you get back and you start the Premier League and you finish it before the end of next season, so to speak. But you don't start for a while. That should be very clear. We're a long way off from being able to start again.
Yeah. Although...
Go on, Ash.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering because they're obviously trying to push to get it done so they can start next season as well. But at the end of the day, I don't think starting football again should be the number one priority, really. Yes, we miss it. Yes, these days are long, but at the end of the day, it's people's health.
Yeah.
I think for me, the clear motivation for the football leagues is money, because if they were to end the season where it is now, they miss out on all the potential TV revenue for those games that would happen. And I think the public in general, seem to have this sort of mindset of, well, they earn millions, they should be willing to risk themselves. And I don't think that's right.
Well, the problem is as well is that they don't necessarily all earn millions. Okay, the Premier League and the Championship, just in English football, but League Two is very much a kind of like I would say probably only just above the national average in terms of the wage.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. So I think for me, the players shouldn't be going back until it's safe for them to do so, and I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen in this country actually there's quite a vocal group of footballers in this country that are unwilling to go back yet.
Yeah. The only problem with them not going back sooner is the lower league clubs, because
They can't afford to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And that was when football was in full swing. So
how would you guys feel about them? Because there's been a lot of talk, particularly in Scotland, and Holland, some of the places where they've sort of suspended the leagues. There's been a lot of talk about some of the smaller clubs suing the respective FAs and the governing bodies. How do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about those stories? Are you sort of supporting them? Are you against them? Are you indifferent to them?
I understand where they're coming from at the end of the day, because there's still a possibility they could get promoted or relegated or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean,
and I think I've said previously to you, Jake, when we discussed the subject briefly, my main issue with it is that these clubs aren't run properly. And for me, if you ran a big business, which most of these, even the small clubs are, because with their assets, they're considered multi-million-pound businesses, you should run it in a way that, you know, you don't completely fall apart if money stops coming in for a few months. Whereas literally, I think within a week of this pandemic starting and football having been called off, clubs were saying they were going to go out of business. And you would, what? You're already that far up shit creek?
Yeah.
And as well, the thing as well is from the money perspective, obviously the economy has taken a huge hit. I think as of March, it was down, nearly 6%, 5.8%, which is unprecedented. It really is huge. And therefore, a football club is hardly going to be a juicy looking sale, is it? It's hardly going to be something you're going to want to throw money in, because famously football clubs are a passion project.
Yeah, you don't make money out of it.
You never make money.
No.
So it's hardly going to be the time to invest in football clubs. So there's not exactly going to be a lot of clubs.
No, and I think,
saviors.
as harsh as this might sound, I sort of want football to fall apart a little bit. I think football and society as a whole needs to see shit really get bad to learn the value of being a bit more careful.
Is this pod playing a part in your Joker story? Are we going to look back 6 months from now and just sort of see where this was heading?
I mean,
no,
it might
you get
help.
what I'm saying, don't you? Like, I think this highlights just how poorly clubs are run. I mean, the average expenditure of a championship club is that they spend 106% of what they earn. So, and that's the average. There'll be teams that are spending much more than that. Like, I know, for example, Derby spend well over that. I think they spend close to double what they bring in.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and with when you think like that, obviously the goal is to get to the Premiership, and it does take money to make money, but it's hard to have sympathy for a club that's actively spending as much over what they make.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of teams that risk it all and just pump money in. And
yeah,
it all falls apart.
Slide down the leagues.
Well, yeah, I don't think they then think about what happens at the end of that rainbow, like when the money suddenly stops.
Yeah.
I think you can't afford to think like that, can you? You just got to kind of think we're going to go all the way through.
No,
yeah,
but I think like
Premier League or bust,
the only
and it's bust a lot of the
sort
time.
of team I've seen have money really thrown at it, and you can see how the owners want to make it sustainable in the future is Man City, because of all the investment they've put in around the club, not just in terms of player power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other than them, I don't think I've ever seen a club actually really manage itself properly in that regard.
No, I think that's relatively fair to say. Certainly a lot of clubs, as you said, they spend more than they make.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one for, there's a lot of deals that are going to end, sponsorship deals and stuff that will come to an end and expire.
Yeah.
at the end of this season. But usually it's not necessarily contracted to the end of the season. It's contracted to the 1st of June. A
Yeah.
lot of, as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
as players' contracts. So how do we feel about players' contracts, which was something I wanted to ask you guys about, because it's by the time the Premier League restarts with 9 to 10 games left, and bar Liverpool, who are only a couple of wins away from winning it, and you'd think in 9 games they probably manage it. But apart from that, teams could line up very, very differently. You've got players coming back from injury that will be available again, but you'll also have players whose contracts expire and who have sort of signed contracts with other clubs and will be potentially, legally speaking anyway, whether it's morally right or wrong, legally making their transfers and starting playing for other clubs. So suddenly, this one team that looked a bit shit, suddenly you have like 3 of their best players back and 4 new ones. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's a bit of extreme, but...
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's difficult.
it depends how the league handles its rules, because obviously, as the Premier League stands at the moment, for example, you cannot register new players until a transfer window. So it depends whether UEFA keeps a transfer window as is and the Premier League keeps its rules as is, because otherwise players could sign contracts with new clubs, but they wouldn't be able to register for the new one.
Ash?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's awkward because it depends what they're doing with the lower leagues. Because the lower leagues, you don't need to register players. But then
No,
there's
not until you
players
hit.
saying, there's players saying they won't finish the season if their contract expires.
Well, that's the thing. Because as much as you can say, okay, we're going to authorise you guys to extend the contract by another month, 3 months, whatever it is, probably more than that. But there's absolutely no way to enforce a player to take that. If they don't like their position at the club and they want to move on and move out as quickly as possible, they're going to do it.
Yeah. Plus, you've also got clubs saying they won't pay them.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
finish the season.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It's an awkward position really for everyone.
And do you think do you think maybe in the interest of fairness, we should go round and sort of quick, iron bar, crowbar to the kneecaps of the players that are currently injured, just to make sure that they're not back to affect the league?
Well, yeah, quite.
I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't too worried about the injured players returning in that.
As a Liverpool player, Ash, I didn't think you would be a Liverpool fan.
Well, I mean, the problem is our player will come. The players I'm talking about, Kieda and Ox, they'll come back and they'll play 1 game, maybe 2, and get injured again. So it won't really make much difference.
But, looking at Tottenham, who are obviously still pushing for something big, they're there. Their
I
team
think
that started
actually
the games
for
before
Tottenham,
they broke to now could be very different.
I know, but I think for Tottenham, they've been for a couple of years now a very tired looking team. And I think particularly players like Harry Kane, this break would have done wonders for, because Harry Kane hasn't had more than a couple of weeks off playing football other than injured for 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Son as well makes a huge difference to that team.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a match winner, arguably.
Oh, I'd say that's not arguable. I think he's a brilliant player.
And depending on when the league restarts, he might come back. He might be back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, I don't think it's difficult. If it was like a suspension, so say like it was a season where a player did something like Cantona and they weren't going to be back until the following season, but because of the delay were now available, I'd understand that argument. But I think injuries aren't a rule. They're not, anything. It's just shit luck.
Yeah.
No, and that's what it is. It's just luck.
I mean, if you think of it from teams like Bristol City's point of view, they loaned Benicophobe. I think in the first 5 games he scored 5 goals. They were looking shit hot. He then got injured for the rest of the season, or what they thought was going to be rest of the season.
No, players can always get injured, absolutely. And, if you're Andy Carroll or Jack Wilshere, you could get injured, waking up in the morning. It's that easy.
Yeah, just blinking.
But let's change
crotch.
tacks a little bit, guys. Can I just for the listeners, you won't know that Big just gave us a beautiful view of his injured crotch,
Yeah,
and was
I was
very
blinking
suggestively
too
asked
hard.
if we'd, massage it. But let's change track slightly. Biggest, I know this is a question you wanted to ask. How are we missing football?
It's a
Anyone
difficult
jump in?
one. I mean, for me, I was sort of not as interested in football as I used to be recently, but now it's been gone a little while. I've got that little bit of an itch,
Yeah, I
that
get
thing
that.
that's like I could
Definitely there's
just
a
do with
burnout.
watching a football match.
Oh, I can't stand it. I hate. I'm missing it. So bad. I can't wait for the Bundesliga to be back.
Do you know what? It's a weird thing. Before the lockdown or before the Corona thing, if you'd have asked me, what do you think you'll miss out of the country shutting down? For sport wouldn't have been up there. I'd have thought I'll probably be all right with that. I can cope. I'll probably cope like a good year or so without it. But I missed live sport. I found myself watching reruns of shit. And like, I don't even care about this sport. I'm watching like fucking curling championships from like 3 years ago. I'm like, A, I know the results. I can Google it. B, I don't give a fuck about this.
What,
I
you
just
knew
need sport in
the
my life.
results of the
Well, you Google
curling
it. You
world
like England,
championships?
Sweden, 2017.
Why would you
I'm like,
Google it if you're going to
Jake,
watch
for
it?
quiz purposes, just keeps up to date with who wins what competitions every year.
But like, I miss live sport so much. There's so much riding on it. Even a shit
Yeah.
game, just the outcome of it is the sort of exciting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that way about football, but there's not really any other sports that I get that excited about. I don't think like, oh, I miss Roger Federer. Do you know what I mean? I'm not in that position.
I don't know, the 2020 Cricket World Cup, the T20 Cricket World
Yeah, that
Cup.
would have been good.
Oh, mate,
That
you're right.
was
I had that marked in my calendar. I did.
the final, man. It was like the best final ever.
Short ball
don't have to
cricket.
tell me, mate. You don't have to tell me.
It went into a
Cricket
super
is
over, bro.
unbelievably exciting.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
As exciting cricket, as unexciting cricket is, that was pretty exciting.
Well,
I
I know
started watching
T20
the,
is supposed to be better, but yeah. Anyway,
I started watching from Abu Dhabi. It was like a little Asian tournament of T10 cricket that was aired from like, it was back in like November, and I sat watching it in this lockdown thing, and you get oddly into it, and you're like, oh, the Royals are gonna fucking smash this lot. The fucking Arabian Nights have got fuck all, mate. They got nothing in this. You just get so weirdly into it.
I was watching.
I don't quite get
horse
that.
racing, and it was at Marseille, and all the jockeys were running around on their horses with masks on. It was quite funny to watch, really.
All right, guys, how much money do you think is going to be lost this weekend when the Bundesliga comes back on the betting apps?
Well, I'm just winning money, so.
Oh, lots. It's a great thing for Ray Winston. He must be laughing.
I'm following this Twitter page.
Oh, I know the page you're following, Ash. The tips page.
I mean, it's pretty good. The
Yeah.
guy knows what he's on about.
It's a sure thing. There's no such thing as a sure thing, but he's pretty much a sure thing.
Yeah, if you want to make easy money, it's the page to follow.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't want to give it away. It's our secret.
Yeah, I don't. Bookies will start getting suspicious.
But no, I did
But,
get
like,
that itch back. I think it was when like links of Palace games. I'm sorry, Aspert Istanbul, the playoff final, stuff like that. It did get me a bit like, oh, I want to watch a match.
Yeah, last day of the season against Sheffield Wednesday and shit like that. And
Yeah.
Well, proper excitement. And I miss Alan Lee as well. I don't care. I'll say it.
Mm.
It's me. It's
it will
Wilbrahimovic. I miss. It's Aaron Wilbraham.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen him score.
Shame not having the crowds there though.
It will. The atmosphere does make a difference, but just to have sport that's like live and new, and I don't know the result, and I'm watching it excitedly.
It excites me that I can bet on it and lose money. Watch my bank account dwindle. That's a rush that nothing else can be.
People have been missing football.
Well, that's what happens when you follow that tip page you're talking about.
That's what happens when you go against it, bro. That's what happens when you follow your gut.
Exactly.
But people have been betting in the Belarusian league. Like, it's been keeping Ray Winston in a house, mate. It's been paying his mortgage.
I've actually done a bit of Belarusian betting.
There you go.
I bet you have. That doesn't shock me.
I did have I didn't bother with the Yakkers because it was just like a little bet here and there. But yeah, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I had no idea who was good, who was bad.
Well, talking about dwindling bank accounts, we love a good segue on this podcast.
We do.
What do we think about? It was a little while ago now, admittedly, or it feels like that in lockdown, when Matt Hancock said live on TV he thought that players should be forced to, or should volunteer to take a 40% pay cut.
Oh, 40%. I thought it was 30%.
Oh,
Brother
30%
bastard.
then.
30% I'm game for. 40% is too much from taking the piss.
That extra 10% matters.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a couple of
absolutely.
stories, Ash. I'd like to get your opinion on that. That one, definitely. I'd like to get your opinion on that.
Well, just if I was on that much money, like say I was good enough to earn 200 grand a week.
I think you are, bro. I believe in you.
Like if I wasn't desperate for the money, then yeah, I'd take a pay cut. Like if it kept the company going.
Can I still pay my mortgage? Can I still pay for the hookers and coke? Then yes, you can take some of my
Yeah,
money
exactly.
back to keep the club
Like,
going.
Can I do a car walk and still get the profit?
And that's the other story I wanted to get your opinion on, Ash.
Well,
Car
before we
walk-
move on to that,
okay.
let's just finish with the financial aspect of things. Like, for example, players like Mesut Ozil, a lot of fans would say should automatically give up all of his wages, let alone only 30%. But I think the issue the players had with it was the implication from Matt Hancock was that it's not to save their clubs, it's to help save the NHS and things like that. And the players were like, well, look, if that was the case, actually, we'd be all right with it.
Yeah. Well, the problem was he didn't practice what he preached. Like,
No, he was asked almost immediately afterwards, will you take a pay cut? And he just went, no, I'll do the job and I'll continue to work hard. It's like, don't be a prick, mate. Hard not for them. They're all pricks at the heart in this cabinet.
Yeah.
In most cabinets, both sides,
Yeah.
left and right, I'll say
It'd be interesting to see his expenditure bill during this.
it.
I think what bothered me with the players, or one of the things that the players said that I really thought, no, that's why I agree with you, is that they mentioned that their concern was, all right, so say we take the 30% pay cut or more, if it gets to the next summer and the club then go out and spend 30, 40 million on players, you know, they're going to feel a bit miffed because essentially they would have paid for that transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So
But
it's
I
not-
mean, yeah, it's a difficult one because at the end of the day, like, you don't really want to take a pay cut, but then with how much money they're on, they can afford it really. Like,
No, fair
it's
enough.
not like they're desperately in need of it, but I'm not going to force them to. But I'm not going to do what those robbers did to Deli Ali and.
No, rob him at knife point, which is just absolutely disgusting.
I don't get, like, honestly. I mean, they were doing it to rob him, not to tell him to take a pay cut. But
Well, no.
what's
Give it to the NHS.
But yeah, you know, you're not going to do that really. You wouldn't offer. I don't.
Is there an argument, guys, that criminals in this country are unpatriotic because they're not willing to rob for the NHS?
Well, for all we know, they were.
Well, I don't think any of the trusts have ever received a bag of cash or an old fridge freezer dropped outside the door in the middle of the
I
night.
bet they have.
Well, you know, you got to leave it a week or two, otherwise people become suspicious.
Well, talking about leaving it a week or two, we need to talk about what Carl Walker should have waited a week or two to do.
I know we said it on the pod. He should have just had a wank and called off, man.
So, yeah, but Ash, what did you think about Carl Walker breaking lockdown not once but twice?
Mostly for the sex party thing.
Yeah,
I don't know
mostly
how
for the
they-
sex fight.
I don't know how they think they're going to get away with it.
No, me neither.
Like, especially when there's a lockdown on. Like,
I can't claim to be an expert, But I don't imagine that if I was about to host a seedy sex party, that at any point through my mind I'd go, "How am I going to get away with this?"
No.
I'd be
Well,
like, "Is there enough?"
You would
coke?"
if you were married.
Yeah, well, that's true. I'd do it at my second home. Don't be a fool.
Did he get
Quite.
caught travelling to his second home? Or?
No, he was getting caught going to try and see his parents because he's been finding it hard, especially since he was caught having a sex party. You know, your
Can you
heart
imagine?
bleeds, doesn't it? Like,
Do you know what? Like, I don't know how he gets by. Big
Ash, let me
massive-
ask you this: we discussed this in the pod. What would you break lockdown for? Would it be, could be a sex party? We're not judging, bro. But what would you break lockdown for?
If I had the money, it would be a sex party. But sadly, I can't afford that.
So you're saying
it depends on where you're looking, really.
in your current financial situation, there's nothing that could make you break the lockdown.
Yeah, I just don't see the point. Like, maybe if I could travel somewhere, like maybe a trip down to down to Cornwall or whatever. If we could have done our road trip in America and everything would have been normal,
Yeah,
I would have.
that would have.
You
I'd have gone
guys
for
would
that.
have been screwed in America.
Oh, we'd have definitely caught the disease. If we haven't already, we'd have definitely caught it.
Yeah, I saw the pictures today. Like, the
These
guys.
bumblefucks just aren't getting it.
Oh, what the fuck are they doing?
Then again, we're not getting it, so who are we to judge?
Well, quite.
True.
But
Yeah,
another question, big wanted to ask, and it sort of segues on, actually pretty naturally for once, rather than a forced movement. Do you ever feel sorry for any footballers? Obviously, footballers. We're talking about footballers, but celebrities in general, I guess, who talk about how hard lockdown is with their, particularly footballers, because they've got their, the trainers are still working with them on specialised fitness and diet plans every day. They're still, they've got beautiful big houses, the top level, beautiful big houses, gyms,
Normally
cinema
ridiculous
rooms.
looking partners they can entertain themselves with.
Oh, mate, absolute bangers.
Don't.
Do you ever feel any sympathy for him?
No, not a single bit.
None for Kyle Walker.
No, at the end of the day.
But he got caught, Ash. He got caught.
You know what? As surprising as it is, and as hard as his life must be. I mean, what's he on, £8,000 a week?
Yeah,
no,
he
he's
must
on like
be-
150, Carl Walker.
Oh, is he?
Peanuts.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I mean, he's barely getting by, and in shame for doing.
Especially with that
everything
40% wage cut.
Yeah, exactly.
What about
Money's going
Grealish?
into offshore accounts. So
Any sympathy for Jack Grealish?
no, he was a twat. How
Don't
can you?
bottle
How
it
can
up,
you?
mate.
How can you tell the general public to not go out and break
And
curfew?
then 2
and stay
days
in-
later,
Yeah, and they get caught drunk driving. I mean, drunk driving alone.
I
is a
actually think it
fucking-
was that night, wasn't it? It was that morning he got caught drink driving.
something like that.
In his defence, being drunk does help break lockdown.
You feel less nervous about it.
It gets you through it. You're sitting in the car. You're like, don't know if I can go through with this. A few cans of special brew, you're all right, mate. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, he's a knob to start with anyway. Like, before he did that,
But tell us
sort
how
of
you really
cemented
feel, Ash.
well, I just don't. I can't stand celebrities that say shit like that and then go and do it anyway and think they
If
can't.
it was a Liverpool player who'd done something like that, Ash, and one of the big ones, say one of the front three, Firmino or Mane or Salah, how would you want your club to respond?
How would I want my club to respond?
Send them on loan to Palace.
Let's not get carried away. Like, I don't wish death on them, but
Would
I'd
fine them, ban them for a game?
Yeah. I think I'd fine them. You know what? I'd win the league and then ban them for the rest of the season. But I'd think I'd fine them.
Big,
Like
what
a
about you
couple-
again? If it was one of the big players at Palace, if it was like Zaha or Cahill or something or Guita, how would you want the club to respond?
Month's wages minimum.
Oh, you're going for a month.
Do you think,
Minimum.
guys? Do you think a month's wage? We've talked about how much money's floating around in the top leagues. Do you think a month's wages or a couple of months' wages really makes a dent in these players? I mean, they've got more money than sense. They've got more money they can ever spend.
I'd make him go hand over a cheque to an NHS trust for 1 month's wages
Yeah.
and apologise.
Do a public apology, yeah. That public apology from Grealish was barely
Weak. It was weak, wasn't it?
He didn't even say sorry, did he?
No, he might as well just come out and gone like, "Sorry, I got caught, losers.
Yeah.
Not my fault. You're all lame."
Yeah. It was a bit of a slap in the face. Feeling
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I got away with it. This is all I have to do.
But
Yeah, I
so
didn't believe a word of
just
it.
on that subject, do you have an issue with professional footballers in general, particularly at the top level, going out and partying and drinking and all that?
Personally, no, I don't. They can sort of do whatever
Yeah.
they like. But when it comes to breaking laws and rules and stuff, then it becomes an issue. If they're going out partying, you crack on. But if they're publicly caught using drugs, for example, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's their life. Like,
I still wouldn't
Fair
necessarily judge them personally for the drugs, but I would think in your position, in your platform, you can't afford to be caught doing those kind of things.
Would it change it for you if it was one of your best players underperforming, and you then found out they'd been partying every weekend before games? You know, if basically they behave
if a
like
player-
George Best.
If a player, regardless of their whether they're ranking in the team, if they were underperforming, and I believe they could be better, I would be very disappointed in any professional athlete who you have a wonderfully unique opportunity to play the sport that you generally you know. I mean, other than Ben Wawasa, everyone plays football because they love football. You've got an
Or
opportunity to play
Danny
it and be
Rose.
as good as you can be. And if you're not performing at the level you can and contributing to your team and to the league and blah, 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 because you're distracted, you should be focusing 100% until you're playing consistently at a good level to your own ability. I don't think, you're allowed the odd night here and there, but generally you should be focusing on being a better player. That's my own personal opinion.
No, I think I agree with that.
yeah, during the season, I don't think it's acceptable, really, with how much they're being paid as well.
Well, yeah.
Like, I mean, on the off season, yeah, go nuts, do whatever the fuck you want. But like, I mean, if I turn up for work hammered with,
I'd lose my job.
coke under my nose,
No, but it's almost almost a little.
I'm just picturing it.
But you can compare it to someone who's not. Let's look at someone in like either of your, let's look at you at work. If you were at work, right,
Yeah.
and one of your colleagues, you knew could do the job to a competent level, but was constantly underperforming, and you're having to pick up the slack for it. And you knew the reason why, or you didn't necessarily know the reason why, but you knew alongside that they're going out every weekend getting absolutely off their fucking tits. Would you be a little bit annoyed about that and think maybe they should,
Yeah, it would really piss me off. It would really piss me off.
Yeah, I imagine you'd say something to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think eventually I'd be like, look, you shouldn't be going out and getting smashed every night before work.
Yeah.
You definitely
it's
shouldn't
like
be
when
drinking with coke under your nose.
Don't do drugs, he says, sitting there taking a long drag on a cigarette.
This is legal, Jake.
Blowing smoke straight into your face. I
This
bet that's
is
how you run meetings at your place. I bet that's how you do it. You invite them into a dark room. You've got like a glass of whiskey in one hand and a big drag on the cigarette, and then straight in their face. Really intimidate them.
Absolutely. You got to put the fear of God in them, Jake.
How is she going to do it?
Well,
I
exactly.
think the best way for you to do it would be naked.
And I
If you went into your manager's office and they were naked.
It doesn't take much to get big naked, trust me. Bottle of vodka and OJ.
Hey, it's good.
You'd have it bent over before long.
I like a Harvey Wallbanger, I must say.
Do you guys think? I mean, it's just kind of circling back to the Kyle Walker thing, and I don't necessarily believe this myself, but just as a question, do you guys think that because everyone's in lockdown and we're all, tensions are a little bit high, and we're all on social media a lot more than we were because we're on our phones more, do you think that there's more harassment and anger being aimed at people like Kyle Walker than there necessarily would be if he'd done something similar out of lockdown?
Yeah, probably. And I think also it's a bit of pent-up aggression from the people you live around, isn't it? Because we've all seen, like, the neighbour next door going out 3-4 times a day. Gary popping down the road again for another 4-pack. So I
Fucking
think...
Gary.
And no one is ever going to start screaming at their neighbour because you have to continue living next to them after all this is over. So I think part of it's just like being able to scream at someone publicly for breaking the rules.
Yeah, it's a lot easier doing it from behind a keyboard as well.
Well, quite.
But do you think there's more aggression in it because we're all in lockdown and because the tensions are up than there necessarily would be in a tweet normally?
To be honest with you, I didn't think
people
he
who
was
wouldn't normally
subject
tweet
to...
abuse, for example, would tweet abuse.
Or possibly, but I don't think he's been exposed to anything more than any other celebrity gets. I don't think it's been any less disgusting or any more disgusting.
No. I mean, people were going crazy before the lockdown started at celebrities.
I mean, he's not getting Caroline Flack level of abuse, is he?
Do you know what? I don't know is the truth. I'm not him, I don't know what pops up in his DMs.
I mean, it may feel that way to him, I'm sure. I'm not saying it's pleasant. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily been heightened because of lockdown. I think his experience of it might be, but not necessarily the actual content
that's the other
itself.
Thing. He gets abused. Normally, on a normal day, he can just put his phone down and go into training and just sort of and exercise is a very good physical way of getting out any aggression or emotions. But he can't do that. He can't go and talk with the team about it, with the guys about it, or not face to face anyway. So yeah, I think you're probably right. Him being in lockdown as well probably has it more, has it heightened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the end of the day, if he doesn't like it, he doesn't need to be on social media. Like, there's this one celebrity that I remember reading about that they used to get shit pretty much every day. And in the end, they just deleted their account and their life is, better off for it. They don't regret it or nothing. But...
Yeah, and I just want to take this opportunity to throw our support. We haven't discussed this, but I know you'll agree. Throw our support behind Ian Wright in the last week or so.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think naming and shaming. I know it's a tough thing to do, and perhaps the best thing is to move on and ignore it. But I think naming and shaming is the right way to go. Is to get to them and get their parents involved, get their peers involved, and get them scolded from all angles.
Well, a lot of people, and I disagree with them, are saying he shouldn't have named and shamed someone so young. But I think I completely disagree, just simply because the younger he is, the more he's in need of having that help and the guy kicked out of him as early as possible. He cannot go...
The messages. I don't care how young you are, using some of the language like that and directing it in such an aggressive way. There's no excuse for that.
Well, yes, like I saw debates online of people saying things like, "Oh, he's too young to really understand the meaning of what he's saying." It's like, no, I'm sorry, I don't care
saying it.
How old you are. You know what you're saying is wrong, whether you know the full meaning or not.
Yeah. I mean, does that show that his parents have failed in the teachings?
Yeah,
or is he just
I think so.
Well, it's hard because I've known people with middle class or upper working class upbringings with the nicest parents on the planet that are just complete arseholes and racist and just nasty. And then you can get people who might come from the lowest end of working class that are the most accepting people you've ever met. So I think it's hard. I think, yeah, it can be down to the parents, but not always.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're probably just looking into it too much there, really.
And let's I literally just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't want to linger on it or dawn on it, but let's sort of move away with something. I want to ask you guys' opinion of how much do you dislike the fact that the current social media of footballers has gotten so bad that last week thousands of people viewed on Instagram Cristiano Ronaldo's missus cutting his hair.
Really?
Literally just a short video of him sitting outside while she ran the clippers up the back of his head a couple of times. And they were like, oh, I mean, how bad is it that people were that desperate for some kind of Cristiano Ronaldo-ness? Yeah, that they went for that. Because I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's sad. I mean,
I can't say too much because I've sort of got into TikTok in the last week. And some of it's just dreadful.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to officially announce here as a Crossing Swords exclusive, Ashley Jones has been bumped up from a football correspondent to full-time host as Big leaves in disgrace.
I was hoping that was going to happen. Like, he should not be allowed on Crossing Swords anymore.
I mean,
I am Crossing Swords.
Defend yourself.
Did you? I saw on Facebook earlier, actually, though, that TikTok are now the sponsors of Bayern Munich.
Are they actually?
Yeah.
Does that mean Bayern Munich have to do a little dance routine every 2 or 3 minutes?
There was a picture of it. It was a Star Trek picture with TikTok being the sponsors, and the guys holding their heads in shame, right? Like the fans.
But I'm going to give you a chance to defend yourself there, Big.
I don't need to defend myself.
Well, that says enough, but you absolutely do.
Wow.
I am Crossing Swords.
Wow. So what's Jake?
Jake's the water boy.
The weight that carries us down. The weight that stops us from flying.
He's my anchor.
Oh dear.
Bringing it back to football though. Just wanted to say that this just bring you guys attention to the fact that social media has taken a real dive lately. But bringing it back to football again, Big. There's one. See, this is what I do. Sounds like I'm coming up with the ideas. What happened is, Big sends me all these ideas, and then I just carefully pick through them, stealing them and passing them off as my own. Are you ready for the next one, Big? Are you ready for your next idea?
I thought these sounded familiar.
This didn't sound like Jake talking. I'm not gonna lie.
Are you ready for your next big idea?
I've had to script him, Ash.
We've talked about
looking down
the lack of takeovers, and I just want to ask you about Newcastle. It says here Newcastle. I want to ask you about Newcastle. Sorry, where are they from?
I don't know. That went wrong.
That may be your saving grace. People might remember that.
Newcastle.
Like TikTok.
Yeah. That's poor, babe. Awful.
With the fact that there's a distinct lack of takeovers and interest in football clubs, should the Newcastle takeover be allowed to go ahead by the Saudi? What do you guys make of that? I'm going to start with because I know what you make of it. Sorry,
you can't really stop it at the end of the day. Yeah, that's wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, what are you going to do? If they want to buy him.
I think he is technically going to pass the fit and proper persons test. So, in reality, there is nothing.
Joke, really. Let's just throw that out there, because wasn't the owner of the either the current owner or the last owner of Leeds like a full known mafia guy?
Yeah, something.
And he passed the test.
He had no money though.
I know, and he still passed the fucking test. What kind of test is they sit him in a room? They're like, "Are you a good guy?" And I go, "Yes." You go, "Are you sure?" Yes. And they go, "All right, then go on through."
Have you got money to do this? No. How are you buying it then? Magic beans.
I reckon he just dropped a Glock on the table and said hello to my little friend.
Let's,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, how did you pass the test? I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. Don't
Yeah,
ask
true.
any more than that. Never ask me about my business, and then shut the doors and walk back off. But let me ask you guys this then: should the fit and proper test, and I use air quotes there, should that be a tighter run thing? Should there be more regulations around that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. This is just good.
We've seen a lot of clubs collapse under poor ownership as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think the one club that was betrayed by the Football League the most over the years was probably Portsmouth. The amount of shitbags that were able to get their hands on that football club.
Yeah, didn't one guy own it for like a week or something at one point?
Yeah, realised,
Like,
fuck this, and then
bought it
sold it
was
on
like,
to his
well,
mate.
this is worse than I thought, and sold it. Yeah.
Who then said he was going to throw billions at the club, and then after 6 months was like, oh, maybe not.
In his fairness, depends what currency you use. He might have thrown billions of, like, I don't know, Zimbabwean
Rupees.
dollars or something at the club. Yeah, rupees. Billions of yen.
He could have been a Nigerian prince.
Yes. I mean, do you think maybe we should be searching the internet for those guys to invest in football clubs?
They do seem to
got
have a
money
lot
to
of money
burn.
lying around.
Yeah, they're always offering me like 750 million diamonds or something.
They've got to offload it fast. That much I do know.
But my fee of £10 will cover the transfer.
I haven't seen my cut of that actually yet, so I'll have to get back onto them.
But so you guys do both think that there should be more regulation, tighter regulation,
Absolutely.
like who can own a club?
I mean, when I first heard about the Newcastle takeover, I was like, at first glance, when I just heard billionaires buying the club, I was like, oh, that's good. You know, like Newcastle's a club I sort of have a soft spot for. They're a big club. And I think they've got such a big fan base. And then when I sort of looked into who the Saudi royal family are and who the man in charge of them are, I was like, all right, maybe not.
Yeah, they're not covering themselves in lot, right? Like,
No. I mean, the guy that's going to own Newcastle had a reporter, an old man, assassinated by 15 men that beat him to death. Why did they need 15?
yeah,
To be fair, we don't know what that guy knows. How many times have you seen films where they send teams of like 4 or 5 and the guy has some secret background where he just fucks them up?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
never
I mean,
an elderly man. It's a guy
could
of
have
That is
been
character.
ageist.
like,
As someone whose hair is going progressively white, I find that incredibly insensitive.
Yeah, but I'm older than you, so get over it.
I mean,
Yeah.
Liam Neeson in Taken wasn't exactly young, was he?
Yeah,
No,
do you
but
know
he's
what
not
I mean?
elderly. He's still not elderly.
Bruce Willis has been kicking ass for like 50 years.
Yeah, but again, he's still not elderly.
He's old.
I think that the lack of hair makes him look older than what he is.
Yeah.
I think the
I
lack
think
of hair makes him look younger than what he is.
No.
It's like you're not still seeing
Either
Roger
way.
Moore like spying it up. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you're not seeing him at all anymore.
Yeah, but he still has them skills.
What is he
He can
dead?
still fuck you up.
Yeah, Roger Moore died a couple of years back.
What? Roger Moore's dead?
He was killed by the
was-
Saudis.
It was so. I only
knew
remember
it.
that because he's
Do you
my
know why
favourite.
big? Because they sent a team of 15 and they got the job done.
Otherwise, with his 007 experience, he would have won.
3 of them got fucked up by a pen. That's all I'm saying. 2 of them got taken up by a
He's not
watch.
John Wick, mate. He's got to get to pencil level first.
Oh, dear. I mean, he wasn't exactly young when he was James Bond, though. In all fairness,
No, he was quite
Not
old when he
towards
was
the
James
end,
Bond.
he wasn't.
He was probably the only Bond that could travel via senior bus pass.
Or using a Zimmer
I
frame.
yeah.
But the fact that the Saudis, you know, that's associated with the Saudis, obviously it's never going to be proven in a court of law. But, you know, should that be held against potential
they're not
owners
as-
of a club? If someone comes to buy a club and it's kind of, you know, it's very difficult to legally prove because you own most of the courts, but it's very much accepted you killed a guy. Should they be allowed to buy a club?
Well, no, not
Well,
really.
no.
I mean, there's not exactly if they're as high up as I've heard, they don't exactly they're exploiting human rights over there, aren't they? In Saudi
Yeah, well, the
Arabia?
guy that
Big
will be
time.
owning Newcastle is the leader of Saudi Arabia by default.
Oh, is he actually?
Yeah, they have a prime minister, but he's not a prime minister, if you get what I mean.
He's the prime minister till he says something that they don't agree with.
He's the prime minister. It's like the opposite of our system. The king actually has
Sorry, do
all
we
the
have a
power.
system?
Well, they would say we do, but the politicians hold no power.
I thought it was a free for all.
Oh, I thought it was a bit more like a dictatorship over there. But...
Oh
Well,
yeah,
it
it
is.
essentially is. It is.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
But that's the other thing as well. I've always had a personal belief that people who run a country or own sort of sovereignty of any kind shouldn't be allowed to buy
company.
sports clubs like that. They can start a company from scratch, I think, is okay, but to outright buy one, I think, is just a bit dirty. It's a bit immoral, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if you were Newcastle fans, fucking happy days.
Well, what do you think about the number of Newcastle fans that changed like their profile pictures to Saudi Arabian flags and stuff like that? Yeah, and there was like a load of Newcastle supporters that put the Saudi Arabian flag in their Twitter handle and stuff like that.
I mean, I'll be honest, it's not uncommon, Brits, any excuse to wrap a tea towel around our head and offend a whole nation. It's very much our kind of cup of tea.
But can you sort of understand why the Newcastle fans are completely fine with it, just because they see themselves being the next Man City?
Well, they're the benefactors. They don't care. Sorry, Ash, what did you say?
I said, what happens when he finds out he's got to fire all the women, or he can't fire the women that work there?
Well, what happens?
Well,
when
no, this guy is apparently progressive. He was the one who brought in the right for women to be able to drive in Saudi Arabia. So he's not all bad.
Jesus. But yeah, I don't know. I reckon he's just bored, really.
But are the fans being hypocritical because Man City are essentially owned by Dubai, the Arab Emirates, and no one's ever really blinked an eyelid over them?
I've always thought it morally questionable. But
yeah, I
can't deny that I've enjoyed watching players like Aguero and De Bruyne and Silva and Toure and that over the years.
I think it helped that Dubai they're not a country that we see like breaking human rights laws and
I think we've turned more. It's become a destination point for a lot of people in this country, and so much money comes from that into this country as well.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, how was your experience over there?
It's all right. I didn't go to Dubai, but it was all right.
Where did you go?
I did go to the Middle East, but yeah, I went to the host of the next World Cup. Yeah. And Ash, let's actually, before I forget, because we've sort of agreed that ideally we'd like to boycott the next World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your views on it?
I mean, I did listen to your pod the other day.
Of course you did. Legend.
About it was equal pay, and you went off on the World Cup and that. The problem is, I just want to watch the World Cup. I don't agree with it being in Qatar, but at the end of the day, I don't know, because...
So say England won the World Cup, they win at Qatar. Would it mar it for you in any sort of way, the fact it was in Qatar? Or would you just be like, fuck me, England have won the World Cup?
I'd probably be like, fuck me, England have won the World Cup.
Well, it'd be a bit like Newcastle, wouldn't it? With the Saudi, you judge, and then suddenly you're the benefactor and you're like, do you know what? I think actually we probably did all right out of it. We weren't part of it and we weren't.
Yeah.
Well, The only reason why is because it's football at the end of the day. I mean, what's gone on over there is, I mean, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't have been in Qatar to start with. At the end of the day,
I mean, I think I landed on a similar thing. You know, sounds like we're on a similar page, and I said I'd love to boycott, but ultimately, if there's football on, I don't know if I can resist watching.
I know.
that's-
I just can't stand the idea of sitting there watching games where players are playing in stadiums where people have died to make it happen.
No,
I get that.
I want to boycott it. I really do, and I will try, but I can't hold any promises to it.
But then I don't want at the end of the day their deaths to be for nothing. Like,
Well, they are.
Yeah.
Like, whether
Weird,
there's a
yeah.
football game played in that stadium or not, they've died for a football match or for a series of football matches. They have died in vain.
well, as soon as they found out it was, what was it? It was brought or bribed, wasn't it? The vote or something.
Yeah.
As soon as they found that out, it should have been changed.
100% couldn't agree more.
Like, it shouldn't have got
If there's
to
any
this stage.
association of corruption, you've got to say, look, sorry guys, we're redoing it, and if your bid was good enough, it'll win again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was never good enough, was it?
No.
No.
But yeah, at the end of the day, the World Cup is on, and I don't think I'll be able to pull myself away from it.
That's fair enough.
And the other thing is, I guess we're now 2 years away from it. Depending on what they decide to do with the rest of this season in terms of European football and Premier League football, it could really fuck up the World Cup. Could change it.
Well, in all fairness, let's hope it does.
Well, no, I think with how much money gets made during the World Cup, it will go ahead regardless of what happens.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think they've already moved the football season to accommodate it. I don't think they're going to be too worried about having to change anything else.
No, I would agree. But Ash, as I'm sort of getting a bit conscious of wrapping things up, I'd like to give you, being a recurring guest, I'd like to afford you an honour that is absolutely free reign, where I'd like to invite you to say and give your opinion on absolutely anything you want here on Crossing Swords.
You could have given me a bit of warning before you did this.
No, it's more fun not to.
I haven't a clue. I honestly don't know. What, like anything?
Anything.
Free reign?
Maybe you just want to talk about how, good it can be topical. You talk about how good the NHS is, what you think about Boris and the government, what you think about the handling of it, what you think about people.
Well,
You can just moan about your neighbours if you really want.
No, my neighbours are all right. They're not too bad, actually. If they're listening to this, they're not listening to it. They can't. But,
Agreed.
but I mean, they should be listening. But no, I mean, I don't think we should be coming out of lockdown. To be honest,
No,
the
I
NHS.
agree.
I'm kind of with you on the clap for the NHS. I mean, like it was nice at first, but now it's a bit like, okay.
It's almost patronising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't get the fireworks either. I mean,
Yeah, fireworks
No.
in broad daylight, stupid.
I'm not going to
clap-
bitch and moan about it like you, but at the end
Well, the
of the day,
clap to me now is almost like a patronising. Well done. We're not going to pay you properly or give you better hours, but we'll
Yeah.
clap for you. All right?
yeah, yeah, maybe that was Boris's way of being like, I hope this fucking shuts them up.
I wouldn't be
Really?
surprised if word for
Really?
word that's what happened in the meeting.
Well, it's topical what you said, Jake, because it's been leaked today to the press that the Exchequer plans to freeze all public workers' pay for the next 2 years. And that includes NHS staff, all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've put themselves through all of this, and they're going to be told at the end of it, well, you're not getting a reward for it.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Well done for helping a country through a pandemic and saving thousands and thousands of lives.
Yeah.
We're not going to financially reward you. No. Some of you won't get fired though, so go you guys.
We're just going to have another debate on what percentage to give ourselves this year.
Yeah, I think we've done well. What bonus shall we get?
Yeah. We're the ones who've really struggled during this.
Yeah. But no, I mean, yeah. The pandemic hasn't been handled well. I'm not going to dig into Boris because at the end of the day, he was sort of like... I mean, yes, there's loads of politicians that have handled it well, or a couple, shall I say. The New Zealand one in particular.
Mm.
But, you know, it's never happened before. You never know how you, like... You're sort of doing it on a whim, really, aren't you? Like,
What do you
I mean,
think
he could've-
about the sort of reaction from the rest of Great Britain or the UK that we've
Oh,
sort of
they all
said we're
said
starting
we're
to come
staying
out
in
of
lockdown.
lockdown and everyone else is like, on your own?
I think there's just idiots out there.
I think that's quite telling.
Well, exactly.
Well, I just don't get what people are thinking. I mean, I'm not worried about this COVID-19 or anything, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna go willy-nilly and go sunbathe on the beach.
Well, you're allowed to now.
I
And
know,
for what
and
it's
as much
worth, I'd love to see you willy-nilly on the beach.
I want to see a picture of you tomorrow at Brighton Beach, laying
I
there,
was going to say,
willy-nilly.
as much as this body deserves to be shown off, I don't think it would be right at the moment.
No, because a lot of people have gotten unhealthy during the lockdown, and you don't want to shame them even more.
Well, no, that's fair.
It's honourable.
I mean, yeah, I've got my exercise machine that my brother brought me for Christmas, which
That was so
I'm
kind
pretty
of
sure
him.
was more of an
And not
insult
insulting.
No. You know what? It was for abs as well. It was such an insult.
Abs.
Yeah, it was like a 6-in-1 workout for abs. And I was like, bro, what are you trying to say?
He's like, you
It
need
is
to up your game. Puny
It's the
man.
full-on equivalent of just sort it out.
Yeah, you know that evil smile he gives you? He just gave me that look. And I was like, what the fuck?
Love that. I
As
love
a
that.
Christmas present as well as like a proper slap in the face.
Yeah, after we'd had Christmas dinner, and I was like,
Yeah,
what
you
the
need
fuck?
this.
Not cool, man. So, yeah, I mean, there's that. Like, part of me wants to move out of the UK now. Like,
I got to admit, during this pandemic and over the Brexit years, we were discussing this earlier. I feel more and more, there have been more occasions where I felt, because I don't feel like a constant shame, but there have been more and more occasions where I felt genuine shame of my country. I think I'm just absolutely ashamed to live here.
Yeah.
And it's happening
Well,
more and more often.
yeah, you get to you're wishing in the future that less and less times you're asked about your nationality, and you're like, please don't ask. I'm not English. Not English.
100%. Next time when we're, I mean, when we go to USA and they're like, "Are you guys Australian?" I'm just going, yes, I am.
Yeah.
From now on, when I'm asked if I'm an Aussie, yeah, of course.
Are you guys English? How dare you?
Yeah. I'm Scottish.
Exactly.
Well, Ash, I think that's the image of you being completely mugged off by your brother is a wonderful place for us to end
I agree.
this particular episode, if you don't mind. And it doesn't matter what you mind, if we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I should have probably just left that at home, but
I'm glad you didn't, though. It was
We'll
genuinely
have to
good
think
story
of
from you.
something to commemorate your undoubted hat-trick appearance on the pod.
We'll make it a special.
Maybe a commemorative T-shirt, something like that.
Tea towel.
Yeah.
I'd like that. I mean, we could also, maybe next time we could go into the story about how me and Big had a 5-minute gym sesh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Half an hour later, we're eating a box of Krispy Kreme. So.
So what though? I think that actually is a perfect way to end this episode, because that is exactly how people are living lockdown. They're doing a little 5 minutes of like, I can do this. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to take this time, and then half an hour later, they're eating Krispy Kremes and they've given up on life entirely, only to repeat the next day.
Yeah.
Ash, it's been a pleasure as always to have you on. Big, it's been tolerable to see your face again.
Agreed.
Thanks for having me back, boys.
No, you're more than welcome. It's been a pleasure. But as always, guys, don't forget to like, rate, share, subscribe. You can find us at Crossing Swords on Facebook, on Twitter at Swords Crossing. We have an email account, which is crossingswords19@gmail.com. And Jake, don't we have an Instagram account?
We do, Crossing Swords _podcast. And Ash,
Boom.
why don't you tell people to please ask people to rate it and subscribe and like and share?
Yes, everyone rate, subscribe, share. You might have to screenshot you rating it because the hosts don't tend to believe you when you tell them that.
Well, when we're getting 0 ratings coming through, it's hard to believe.
I was rated every episode and it said it was submitted.
I've seen the proof and now I know that it is.
Exactly.
And the
numbers just aren't going up.
Ash, people know we're temperamental. They know what they're getting into with us.
It's true. That is true.
Right,
But
so on that note, guys, as always, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Ciao.